Hello, I'm Executive Chef Joseph Schutzler, and welcome to our kitchen. Today, I want to focus on one of the most popular side dishes globally. Probably second most popular to the French fry is mashed potatoes. Mashed potatoes are a side dish or just a food item that seems so easy to prepare on paper. But yet the reality is a lot of people ruin them and not even know it. Just think if you were able to take your potentially favorite side dish and make it even better. Well, join me now and I will show you my recipe and procedure for making the best mashed potatoes. To begin, I will take potatoes that have been scrubbed and place them into a pot of water. Turn on high heat, add kosher salt, and let's bring it to a simmer. Important fact number 1, choosing the correct potato. Potatoes are considered waxy or starchy. Starchy potatoes are hands down the best for mashing. An example of starchy potatoes are Yukon Gold, as I'm using here, which are the best, by the way. Another starchy potato would be the Russet, otherwise known as Idaho. Yukon Golds are a little better because they will not absorb as much water as the Russets. The waxy potatoes are your white skin and red skin potatoes. Those are just really bad for mashing because they just cream up and they're too heavy and dense and become a lot like concrete. Important note number 2. Notice that I did not peel the potatoes. That is because I do not want to absorb that much water into the potato. All I want them to do is cook gently and soften. Now the water is beginning to simmer. I will cover it and reduce the heat to medium. Continue to cook these until the potatoes are tender. You can check them by putting a knife through the potato, and if the knife goes through easily and comes out clean, it is good to go. Also, please note to not overcook the potatoes. Well, here we are after 25 minutes. Let's go ahead and check our potatoes. They are nice. We are ready to strain and peel. Well, now to peel, go ahead and just gently peel back the skin. You could do it with your hands like this, and it should peel away pretty easily. If you have a little bit of trouble, feel free to use things like paper towel or a tea towel or something to help scrape it off. You can even bust them up a little bit into smaller pieces when you put them into the ricer. Helps it make it pass through a little easier. And let's just go ahead and repeat with all the potatoes. Well, now that we have the potatoes peeled, let's go ahead and run it through our food mill. Okay, now that our potatoes have gone through the food mill, scrape the bottom from some excess. And now, another important part. Let's go back to the heat and dry these out a bit. What I did was I rinsed a small saucepan out with water. Do not dry it off. Then added milk, and I'm gonna bring it to a boil. That little layer of water that's in there is gonna help protect it from scorching. And at the same time, while I am bringing that to temperature, I have my whipped potatoes over medium heat, and I'm gonna stir that continuously to evaporate excess water and to dry these out a bit, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 7 minutes or so. Well, now after about 5 minutes, my potatoes are drying up nicely. At this time, I like to add my butter. Now, to me, this is an important part, adding the butter cold. Well, now that our butter has absorbed into the potato, let's go ahead and add our milk in a slow and steady stream. Well, here we are. Potatoes nice and fluffy, creamy, milk and butter all absorbed into it. At this time, we want to taste it, and we will season it with salt and white pepper until desired taste is met. Also, if you were to do a variant, for instance, roasted garlic, a lemon, or even mustard seed mashed potatoes, you would add it now, mix it in well, and then taste for the seasonings. And after we season, we are ready for service. Well, there you have my mashed potatoes. It seems like a little bit of work, but let me tell you, as I mentioned before, anytime you want to put out something exceptional, there is work involved. Try it, follow these procedures. You know, from number one, picking the proper potato. I love red skin potatoes as well. However, you will never see me mash them. I save them only for roasting and maybe deep frying, making potato chips. Putting them back to the stove to, again, dry them after the cooking process. Alternative ways to cooking it into water is actually baking them on a sheet pan on some rock salt. We used to do that back in Atlanta until we got so busy we just couldn't do it no more. We had to cook it in the water. But again, keep in mind, do not overcook the potato. That is probably the absolute most important thing. Even being the potato, not being quite dry enough, just do not overcook it, because once it becomes saturated, there is no room for any absorption of the butter or the cream or milk. I choose milk simply because as I'm whipping it together and moving it, it doesn't get thicker. Heavy cream, the more you whip it, what happens? You're making whipped cream. And it's actually counterproductive when it comes to making mashed potatoes. You want light and fluffy, not heavy concrete. Well, I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope it inspired you to try it. I can assure you, I challenge you, try this method, try this technique, and follow this recipe. Tell me what you think. I can just about guarantee that you will have a better quality and a better tasting mashed potatoes. Also, one last thing is, if I will include below in the notes, rather than doing a mashed potato, if you want to do something that's called like a potato puree or a palm puree, I will add the notes below. It's the same exact process. The only difference is you're gonna add a little more milk to it and a little more butter. And literally the puree is just meant to, roll out onto the plate, where the mashed potato will have a little more fluff to it and beautiful for piping out of piping bags. If you want to be creative, a nice design on a plate. Topping for our shepherd's pie. Well, thank you very much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. I hope you learned a little bit about mashed potato. Simple dish on paper, yet there are so many fine techniques and fine control points to where you can make a mediocre potato fantastic. Well, if you've not done so, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Be up to date with our latest posts. Thank you again. Yotoyat.